This is the Cool Guys podcast right here. Richard and, of course, Denny Cool. Richard, unless you want to be called a different name.
No, Richard is great. Your story. So I know somebody that tells a story, not the whole supernatural thing, but that depression that you're talking about. They've talked about going through something very similar, like they're not themselves, like there's an oppression.
Yes.
And the thoughts that would go through their mind just was, like they couldn't even understand, be working on a car and put your hand in there, like the running engine, just stick your hand in there, like that kind of stuff. And that's thankfully I've never been through anything like that. I think everybody goes through minor bouts of depression from time to time, just through life. Back on your thought, to talk to somebody, I would just like to encourage anybody that's listening that if someone does come to you, it seems like these days, talking about being kind and kindness is, there's been times when I've tried to, I think we talked a little bit about that too, being Gen X, we kind of raised ourselves. We kind of, we're just kind of a different breed. And so it's very difficult for us to ask for help.
Right.
And I've found there were a couple times when I was going through it where you try to reach out to somebody and, like for me, I have an amazing spouse, but sometimes that you want to talk to some, maybe another man or somebody, a friend, someone that, someone different, because it's kind of like, I can't really explain it, but sometimes you just want someone else to talk to that might understand what you're talking about, from a male perspective or whatever, for me. And you go and you put yourself in a vulnerable position by trying to open up, and they don't have the time to listen to you. And it's
Right.
just kind of like, oh, yeah, whatever. But then again, if someone takes that final step that no one should ever have to take, then it's, oh, man, why didn't he talk to somebody? Maybe they tried
Right.
and didn't want to listen. And the thing is, if someone, even if it seems, like, I don't know, if it comes off as, whatever, take the time, take 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Just, you don't need, a lot of times they don't want advice. They just want someone to listen to them. Just get it off their chest. And then there's people that try to help too much by trying to give every bit of advice for everything they say. And it's like, no, just listen. Sometimes someone just needs someone to talk to explain what they're going through. And just a hug, hey, you'll get through this, and just support and encourage and help them and get them back on their feet, because it's a horrible thing when a person tries to reach out and no one really wants to listen, and then they always tell you, oh, you should reach out if you're feeling that way, and then once you get rejected, then you just, at that point, then it's just kind of
well
like
said, Richard. I
somebody
agree.
will
I
just
think
give
that's
up
an
and
awesome
let them know
idea,
what they're
and I think that's a very good challenge too. I see it all the time. I know everybody out there sees it. Excuse me. And I think that, there's unfortunately too much. They used to call it table talk. Now it's called tablet talk, because you're not communicating anymore. And, to Richard's point, he learned about that guy, invited him out to lunch or maybe get a coffee, whatever it is. And,
lunch is good, breakfast.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different options you can do.
Yep.
Invite them to the gym. Go for a walk. Down a local trail at a park or something. That's what I like to do, is go on a hike in the woods and just enjoy nature. But there's a lot of different things one could do.
No, that's a very good recommendation. Yeah, that's a very good challenge too. I like that, because we all at times are guilty of it. I just said about the well, of course I did it for research, but can you imagine sitting down, right, and you're talking about a certain subject, all of a sudden somebody whips out their phone, and it's different if you're by yourself and you're trying to research something as you're seeing it, like what happened to me. But if you're with a group of people and you take out your phone or whatever it is, your tablet, right? And as they're talking and you're having this interesting conversation, you're looking at this person, you're like, what are you doing? Well, I'm trying to find out this. Well, how about we talk about it? Let's be creative. Let's all try to figure out why we seen this or why this is the way it is or whatever. That's the whole thing. Dialogue is huge, but it's a lost thing. And again, right, like Richard said, yeah, go for a nature walk or whatever. It doesn't have to be anything that costs money. The best things in life are simple and they're free. Mm-hmm. And I think we've lost perspective. To Richard's point, yeah, you have generational gaps in people who grew up different. Our generation, much, much different. And it doesn't say that every person from our generation has a moral compass on them. That's not what we're saying. But 9 out of 10, certain generations, ours and older, have ethics, morals, clarity, and we still experience the same pains, the same sicknesses, suffering, the same ailments. We just handle it differently because we were raised differently. Our surroundings, our environment, we weren't influenced by social media or outside negativity. Our negativity, 9 out of 10, was brought from our own doing or the crowd we were hanging around with. They were just bad hombres. And so that's where ours came from. Today, it's social media and media itself, mainstream, and so, yeah, definitely 100%, man. I think that's a cool thing too. And that's a really good thing to do. Invite somebody out to lunch, go for a walk, go to the gym, go fishing, whatever. It doesn't matter. Go, hey, man, you want to go have a coffee or something like that? And, it's like Richard said, you feel so much better because when you talk about something and I know because we have many members. I mean, I talked to Richard, I talked to Judy, I talked to John, I talked to Jude, I talked to Johnny Boss. I mean, many. And whenever you talk, you just feel better if something's bothering you. They may not be able to fix it, but that's okay. Because Richard, I know it probably applies to you. Like when something's bothering me and I'm really stumped and it's just eating at me, I'll talk about it. They don't solve my problem, but you know what happens is I end up finding that I find the solution to whatever the problem is, or I can handle it better because I'm more level-headed. I can think a little bit clearer because I feel like I just relieved a lot of that worry. Mm-hmm. And kind of just like said, here, it's your problem. You figure it out now. But reality is it's still mine. But I just allowed myself to clear my head.
Yeah.
Right? And now you can take a different approach to something as opposed to, how am I going to do this? Or this is overwhelming, and that happens. And so, yeah, I'm a huge fan of that component of just talking, letting it rip.
Something that I found too,
if it's the other side,
is
just listen.
If you know someone's going through something, and you happen to be friends with them on some social platform, just send them a quick little message in their chat. Just say, "Hey, thinking of you." Sending you hugs and encouragement, just something like that, something simple. It lets them lets them know that someone's thinking about them. Just that random little bit. It's amazing how much that can change a person's mind. Just knowing that someone's thinking about you.
That's a good point because that's a good point. 1 out of every 10 people, statistically, will experience depression, and each experience varies, of course. But here's the other thing, too, that everybody should be aware of. Now, maybe you've never suffered it in that, extreme. Maybe you have a little bit, and maybe it's caused some traumatic hardships or a sense of feeling worthless or what have you. The thing about that is that's what it does. It makes you feel as if you're useless, and unfortunately, in a lot of cases, more than not, is people end it tragically, because the only thing when you wake up is you're like, oh, I'm alive still, and you have no ambition, no hope to even be around. And for those who don't suffer it or who've never experienced it, it's hard for you to comprehend how somebody who seems so normal, maybe they have everything, in your opinion, going for them in life, but yet, look at Robin Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect example. You would think the guy had everything going for him, but Richard and I were discussing earlier on a different episode about, having success and money and everything else like that. It's irrelevant, because when you're going through depression, it doesn't matter what you have. Don't you think with all his money and success, he would have paid anything and done anything to stop feeling the way he felt? Do you think somebody like that, like one of the greatest comedians and actors of all time, would just want to end his life? We don't know the true 100% facts behind it, but I can tell you this, people with less fight harder than, according to the stories that I've read about his depression. So it just goes to show you that it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, or what you have. Depression is a beast. It'll rip you apart if you don't get help and if you don't talk. Talking is one of the best known natural free cures. It doesn't cost anything. And like Richard said, which is a very good point, if you have a media circle or friends, every once in a while, you don't have to bombard them, all right? Shoot them a text or drop them an email if they don't like phone calls, or even if you wanted to call them, hey, how you doing? I send them a text. Hey, thinking of you today. Hope you're doing all right. Now, I can tell you for sure that within the DCG community, we have a chat group, and it's free to join. And I can tell you, and Richard will attest, there's a lot of members who have gone through some difficult times. But guess what? They express it through the chat group. Others reach out to them. They support them, and they come back. And you find out that, you know what, they're doing better than they were yesterday. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's because they know that people care, that people are supporting them. You don't have to know somebody. You don't have to physically go up and do anything to somebody. Just reaching out, like what Richard said, shooting them a text or an email or whatever it is, letting them know, you know what, I'm here. How are you doing? And if they are going through any type of depression or a hard time in life, it's always nice and reassuring to know that there are people there who truly care about you, and that's most important. Mm-hmm. Good points there, Richard. Good points. I mean, I really liked that we discussed that, because I think that there's a lot of people out there, unfortunately, that don't get the help they need because they think that it takes resources and know-how, and it really doesn't. It's the resource is free. Talking is free, and we encourage anybody to talk to anybody. I mean, even if you went for a nice little walk somewhere, and as crazy as this sounds, I've heard and read stories of people who just sit there and talk to a tree, and they're not expecting a response, but what they're doing is they're venting, right? They're getting out aggression, and they're expressing themselves. And so it's a metaphor for them expressing to somebody else how they feel. And they said that even though doing that, as crazy as it sounds, it actually made them feel a little bit better and gave them the strength to talk to somebody. So whatever it takes for you to talk and to get out what you're feeling, do it. You're not alone. You're not the only one going through it, and you're not by yourself. And there are people.
Something
Who
I'd like to
will listen
challenge
to
people
you.
too. It was something I've noticed, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that, with the advent of everything going digital, conversation and just sitting and talking has gone out the window, even among, couples and things like that. You go to the restaurant, you see people, two people sitting at a table and they're just both on their phones, no conversation. And, what I would challenge people is there's nothing like a good two-way conversation, kind of like we're having here. And um, something that I've done is at my local church, there's a gentleman that it's like, I'd like to get to know him a little better. And so one day I asked him, hey, would you like to go out for a cup of coffee? He's like, sure. So we went out to a local coffee shop, and I'll bet we'd never sat and talked before. No more than hi, how you doing? Shake hands on a Sunday morning, whatever. But we sat probably 2, 3 hours just talking about just all kinds of different things, everything from our past to, here's how I grew up. These are my hobbies. You know, I think if people took the time, find somebody, my challenge is to find somebody, it could be someone you work with, maybe it's a neighbor, and just say, hey, how about we just, someone maybe you want to get to know a little better, and just say, hey, let's go out for a cup of coffee and just, put the phones away and just sit and find something to talk about. Leave controversial subjects aside. Just have a good general conversation about, I don't know, what you like to do, what kind of movies you like to watch, the music
Right.
you like to listen to. Do you play an instrument? Oh, that's interesting. Where did you learn to do that? There's just so many different things once you get to talking about that, and you learn. I love learning about other people and hearing their stories, because everybody's got a story to tell and they're all interesting. And I could sit for hours just listening to people tell stories. And but yeah, I mean, it's, if you've never done it before, it could be very, very maybe scary to think about. But it's a great way to get to know someone better. And I'll tell you what, you leave a conversation like that feeling just so, I mean, your day is just brighter, just having that good open conversation and get to know people better. And then it also makes it easier if you need to find someone to talk to. You're opening up that line of communication because now you're more comfortable because you know each other a little better. And so it's easier to say, hey, can I talk to you? I
It was
just need to
irrelevant
get
what
something off my
my wife
chest.
said
And
to
it
me.
just opens
I didn't
that
look
door.
for her help. And it's not because I didn't love her or vice versa. But the one thing you have to keep in mind is you live with each other day in and day out. You hear each other's sufferings, your joys, and all that. So sometimes it appears as if it's, a complaint.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I was trying to.
Yeah, he's complaining or she's whatever it is, right? And so you kind of shrug it off and you don't take it seriously. And what happens is over time you develop that mental attitude that, well, no sense in telling her because she's not going to believe me or she's not going to, pay much attention to it. And the signs are there, but your husband or wife doesn't recognize it because maybe you've shown signs like that in the past, or maybe they think he's just nagging or they're just complaining and, whatever. But to Richard's point, he's absolutely right. Sometimes you need that other person, and it could be a complete stranger. There are many different programs and outreach situations that you can go to, and it makes it difficult for people to function normally. For instance, again, today's society, depression's been going on for thousands of years. The Apostle Paul mentions it in 2 Corinthians. He talks about it. So it's not like it's a new thing. We have more understanding of it now. But sometimes, to Richard's point, it's impossible to talk to somebody close to you. You tend to push them away. Depression, it can be almost impossible to defeat completely. And like what Richard said, we all go through it. Everybody, you may not realize it, but sometimes when you're feeling sad or lonely or whatever, it's a sign of depression. It's not a sign to push the panic button. When you feel fatigue, for instance, in my experience, it was fatigue, physical pain, if your eating habits change, sleeping habits.
Lack of motivation.
Yeah, motivation, absolutely. You tend to mask it. And some people mask it, whether they start picking up alcohol, drugs, sexual activities outside of whatever it is. The reason people do that is they want to cure whatever it is that ails them. So they think it's a fix, right? It's going to make them feel better. It does not. In fact, it makes the situation worse. And so people who get that, to Richard's point, if you know somebody, and like he said, it's usually the Johnny-come-latelys. Oh, why didn't he come to me? Why didn't she tell me something? Well, they did. You just weren't paying attention. And it's not because you didn't pay attention ignorantly or you did it ignorantly. It's because maybe it's somebody you know, you live with, and you're accustomed to maybe their mood changes, or maybe it's their attitude, or whatever it is. If you know somebody, like Richard said, who is experiencing depression, okay, say something. Talk to them, get an understanding. If you notice their moods are changing, their attitude, their eating habits, they have, like Richard said, no motivation. Maybe they were an upbeat person before, and now all of a sudden, you notice in the past couple of months, man, they don't want to do anything anymore. Man, they're just a party pooper. No, maybe there's an underlying condition with that. Maybe there's a reason why. And so if they don't want to talk to you, then find somebody who just listen to somebody. Well, Richard, it is that time, my friend. We've had some amazing, awesome conversations here.
Absolutely.
And I got to tell you, man, it's Cool Guys, Ladies and Gentlemen podcast.